Hi, I'm Susie Garden, and this is the Ageless and Awesome podcast. I'm an age-defying naturopath and clinical nutritionist, and I'm here to bust myths around women's health and aging so that you can be ageless and awesome in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. The Ageless and Awesome podcast is dedicated to helping women through perimenopause and menopause with great health, a positive mindset, and outrageous confidence. Hit subscribe or follow now, and let's get started. Hello, gorgeous one, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ageless and Awesome podcast. I'm Susie Garden, your host, and I'm just following up on the little series I've been doing over the last few weeks. And in the last episode, which was last week, I talked about explaining what it means to do this, in inverted commas, properly. So to, I guess, overhaul your lifestyle. I guess, gosh, it's not really a little this, is it? But what many women find when they get into perimenopause, and also sometimes they wait until postmenopause, is that you just can't necessarily continue the way you have been. And interestingly, last week I had two clients that I saw in peri weight loss assessments that said the same thing, almost word for word, was just, I've realized that I can't keep going on like this. I've realized that, what I've been doing is just going nowhere, and I actually need to take some pretty significant steps. Otherwise, they can see their future, and it does not look good. It does not look like a future they want to have. So if you're ready to do this properly, if you've listened to those episodes over the last few weeks and gone, yeah, this is me, let's talk today about what this actually looks like after 40. Because, for some of you that may have been listening over the past few weeks, you may be feeling something shifting in the way you're thinking. So not a frantic panic, not desperate, not that new year, new me energy. I think we're a bit past that now, but just feeling ready, ready to stop circling through those same patterns, ready to stop guessing about what to do to start feeling better, ready to stop starting over every few months. It's a big thing that many women, by the time they get to me, they're like they've done everything under the sun. They try something new every few months to try and find something that works. And so today I want to talk about what doing it properly, in inverted commas, actually means after 40, because it's very different to what you were doing and what you were told to do in your 20s and 30s. And the thing is, if you get it wrong, you tend to burn out. And if you get it right, everything steadies, and you get a really good outcome. So let's get started, and let's start by dismantling the myths. And I've touched on these over the last few weeks. So, doing it properly does not mean going hard, really flogging yourself with HIIT, which high intensity exercise. It's not that whole exercise more, eat less. My next point is cutting down food. A lot of women I talk to, I've had a lady last week, she's having 1,000 calories a day. It's just crazy. You don't need to be exercising 6 days a week. You don't need to be eliminating carbs. You don't need to be starting another extreme plan. And I'm looking at you, carnivore diet, because that is another one that's very popular at the moment. And yes, you can lose weight on it, but what it does to your gut microbiome, go and have a look at that. Go and chat GPT that. Because even just within 6 to 8 weeks, you can have extinction events in your gut microbiome, and that's not a great thing. And also doing it properly doesn't mean proving to yourself that you still have discipline, and I think that's what most of us think it means, because diet culture taught us this, and we've lived, our generation, those of us in our 40s and 50s have lived through this diet culture of you need to be skinny. Serious results require serious suffering. You've got to starve yourself. You've got to flog yourself at the gym. But here's what I see clinically over and over and over again. Women in perimenopause in particular, because that's sort of at the point where you sometimes don't know you're in perimenopause. So you think, oh gosh, I just have to make some changes. So you try to push harder. And then your body starts pushing back because more restriction, as we've talked about, leads to more cortisol. If the body thinks it's starving, it goes into stress. More intensity with your exercise leads to more inflammation, a key blocker of weight loss. And more pressure on yourself can lead to less consistency. And we know consistency is king. So you may get a short-term drop on the scales and you feel good, and that's great, but it rarely lasts, and the rebound can feel heavier every single time. So if that's what proper has meant in the past, it's time to redefine it. So let's do that. So what does doing things properly mean in midlife, in our 40s and 50s particularly, and maybe in your 60s, depending on where you're at in your journey? So doing this properly after 40 means building a foundation that your hormones can tolerate. Building a foundation. It means strategy. It's not just ad hoc. It's not just short term. It means strategy. It means calmly approaching this. It means having support. So let's break this down. Let's talk about nutrition and hormone-aware nutrition. You've probably noticed that you can't eat like you did at 25 and still feel the same and still look the same. Your body now needs consistent protein, so at every meal, blood sugar stability, 3 meals a day, no snacks, adequate calories, not chronically under-eating. Obviously, portions are important and macro balance is important, but you need to know what that is for you as an individual with your individual metabolism, your medical conditions, your medications, and it's not a one-size-fits-all approach by any means. You need to get adequate calories. Anti-inflammatory foods. Now, you've probably heard about anti-inflammatory diets and things like that. You don't necessarily need a full anti-inflammatory diet, but foods that are going to help combat inflammation are important because we know that as your estrogen drops, that anti-inflammatory effect that estrogen has is no longer as consistent. So we need to use food because remember, our body is designed to operate with food. That is the only thing we consistently do every day to provide nourishment to our bodies. You think about evolution. We didn't take supplements. We ate food. And so having anti-inflammatory foods, and generally that's lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, are going to help bring that inflammation down. And as I mentioned before, inflammation, a real blocker to weight loss. Well, your body also now needs fewer dramatic swings. So you need to be consistent. And it's not about being perfect, by the way. Consistency doesn't mean perfect or perfection. It's about being predictable. Predictability reduces your cortisol, and reduced cortisol opens the door to fat loss. So number 2, let's look at movement. So we want to really focus on strength over punishment. So cardio used to feel really productive. I mean, I've got to admit, I've never been someone that's loved cardio. I've never been a runner. I've never been, a swimmer. I do ride a bike, but I'm not someone that rides it really hard. I'm more of a mountain biker. So cardio used to be really productive and used to be great for burning off fuel, right? But now it often can feel exhausting. Midlife bodies tend to thrive on strength training, walking briskly, mobility, so yoga, Pilates, and recovery. And that could be things like sauna. It could be cold plunge, not ice baths. We now know that women don't really need to get into ice baths. We're better off at about a 16-degree water temperature, which in my opinion is still pretty cold. But I'm really happy having done some ice baths in the past, and they're pretty brutal. I'm pretty happy that that's no longer on the cards. And the thing is, you really do need as much as I know for myself, I really hated this, but muscle disappears so quickly in your 40s, and muscle is metabolic currency in peri and post-menopause, particularly post-menopause. Preserving it changes everything, and there's new research coming out now about the link between the brain and muscles and how improving your muscle mass improves your brain health. And that is so important given we can see this avalanche of Alzheimer's and dementia coming at us with the aging population. Anything you can do to reduce your risk of Alzheimer's or dementia, things like Parkinson's, those type of conditions, if you can grow and maintain your muscle, that does wonders for improving brain health. So preserve your muscle health at all costs. Number 3, sleep as a non-negotiable. Sleep is not a luxury anymore. It is actually our metabolic infrastructure. If you think about it like that, even one bad night can increase your hunger hormones. It can reduce your insulin sensitivity. It can raise your cortisol. It increases cravings. This all has an impact on your hormones, all has an impact on your weight and your ability to maintain a healthy weight. Doing this properly means that you treat sleep like an asset, not an afterthought, not a given. And we all know if you have a bad night's sleep, it really transfers into the next day. And again, as you progress and get into, your 50s in particular, one bad night can really knock you out in a way that it didn't do when you were younger. So protecting your sleep becomes a major priority. The number 4 in this is nervous system regulation. And this is the piece that many women miss. If your body feels chronically stressed, then fat loss will slow down, cravings will increase, emotional eating will rise, inflammation climb. So this is a recipe for disaster if you're wanting to maintain a healthy weight. So, we don't just change food when you're looking at doing things in the right way. We change the stress load. And that can mean many things. It can mean boundaries. It can mean saying no. It can mean slower mornings, less alcohol, breathing practices, and walking outdoors, spending time in nature, doing things that bring you joy. Doing this properly means your nervous system feels safe. This is critical for so many from managing hot flushes to weight, to anxious feelings, worry, all of the things that can make life feel hard. If you learn how to regulate your own nervous system, this is a key life skill. I truly believe we need to be taught this in school so that it becomes just a regular part of our life, not something that we have to think about. And once you train yourself and train your nervous system to regulate, it actually becomes very much easier to do, and it does become kind of a natural thing. You do tend to start breathing deeply, more naturally, and without having to think about it. And it does mean that it doesn't become just yet another thing on the to-do list. So, doing this properly means your nervous system feels safe and you don't need to think about it a lot. Another and the final part I want to just touch on is emotional and mindset support, because, here's the quiet truth. Weight loss in midlife is not just physical. There is an emotional component here. There is grief. There is frustration. There is identity shifting. And if you don't address the mindset side, self-sabotage can easily creep in. So doing this properly means that you don't white knuckle your way through this. You have tools, you have reflection, you have accountability. Now, I want to say something gently but clearly. Most women don't struggle with either hormone symptoms or weight because they lack knowledge. They struggle because they're exhausted. They're busy, they're overwhelmed, they second guess themselves, they have no one keeping them steady, they have brain fog, all of the things. In your 20s, you could rely on motivation. In your 40s and beyond, motivation can be inconsistent. And in fact, a lot of the women that come to me initially, when I ask them about their energy, they also will comment on their motivation and say their energy is low, but also their motivation to do anything about it is also low. And that is not your fault. That is not you being lazy. What that is your neurotransmitters, so your brain chemicals, not functioning properly. And it's actually really easy and fast to correct with the right nutrition. And what works really well in terms of motivation and getting around that feeling that you're struggling is having structure. Having your set of tools there ready to go. So having structure, having feedback, so having a coach, having accountability, so maybe other people around you, having reassurance, someone who understands the hormonal layer. So, I work with a PT and he's awesome. And it's really funny because he's constantly giving me dietary advice, which is pretty hilarious. But it is, how do I put it? It's great having that, and I do appreciate it. I'm not, belittling that at all. I do appreciate it. And even as a nutritionist, sometimes I need to be reminded of things. But a PT doesn't understand the hormonal layer that's going on here. They don't understand inflammation. They don't understand gut health. So you need someone that actually understands how all of these interplay. And rather than having someone that, like in the case of my PT, is pushing me to have 125 grams of protein a day, which is pretty challenging, and it's not necessarily needed. But this is exactly why having someone who understands this journey, someone who's been through this journey, can really help you, support you moving forward and actually getting to where you want to go. And this is not because women suddenly become disciplined, it's because they stop doing it alone. They have their personalized nutrition plan. They have a hormone-aware nutrition plan, structured check-ins, support when there's a wobble. In fact, the support comes before the wobble, just to ensure that doesn't happen. But if it does very occasionally happen, then the support is there. And guidance for when life gets messy, because obviously there's always life going on in the background. And that's what makes this sustainable, when you have all of these foundations in place. So if you've been listening this month, over this past month or so, and quietly thinking, I'm tired of guessing, how do I know what my macro balance should be? How do I know how many grams of chicken I should be having? I don't want another diet. I want this done properly. Then this might be your moment, and not because of urgency, not because you should, but because you're ready to approach this differently. When I work with women, what I do is not extreme. It isn't punishing. It's not chaotic. It's very structured, supported, and hormone aware. And it's where I guide women through stabilizing blood sugar, calming down cortisol, rebuilding metabolic flexibility, strengthening muscle, really focusing on building that muscle mass back up, healing your relationship with food, and losing weight in a sustainable way with accountability, with strategy, with compassion. And if that sounds like what you've been needing, then book in a Peri weight loss assessment with me. The link is in the show notes. We just get on a call for about 20-30 minutes. I seek to understand what is going on with you, and you can find out how I work with women. What is this actually all about? So let me leave you with this. So doing it properly in peri and postmenopause isn't about trying harder and flogging yourself. It's about being smarter, with support, with patience, with respect for your body, with respect for your hormones. You're not behind. You're not failing. You're not too late ever. I think my oldest clients are in their 70s. You're definitely not too late. You just need the right approach for this chapter of your life. So thank you for kind of spending this time with me today. I always love seeing how many downloads there are. I love getting feedback through my DMs or through emails. And I do really appreciate your support and your feedback. So take care. Take this on board. If you feel like you'd like to have a chat, reach out. Otherwise, I'll be back next week with some more fresh content for you. Thanks so much for joining me on the Ageless and Awesome podcast. If you liked this episode, please make sure you click the little plus button if you're on Apple Podcasts or the follow button if you're on Spotify so that you get each new episode delivered to you every single week. If you feel like writing me a 5-star review, you would absolutely make my day. If you found this episode resonated with you, head over to my Instagram and DM me at the Perimenopause Path. I would love to connect with you.